Matthew 2:13-15. In Matthew's account, the narrative moves swiftly from the visit of the Magi to the sudden threat of royal violence. The child who has been declared King of the Jews now stands in the shadow of a jealous throne. The text reads, "Now, when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, 'Arise, take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.' When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, 'Out of Egypt I called my son.'" Close quote. This passage is not merely a travel narrative. It is a theological declaration wrapped in history. Matthew presents Jesus as the embodiment of Israel's story, reliving and completing what the nation began. Egypt, the place of preservation and pattern image. Egypt, throughout the Hebrew scriptures, is both a house of bondage and a place of refuge. It was into Egypt that Jacob's family descended in the days of famine. There Israel was preserved, multiplied, and eventually delivered by the mighty hand of God. Now, in Matthew 2, the pattern repeats, but with one child. The angel commands Joseph to flee. The language is urgent. Arise, take, flee. The threat is explicit. Herod seeks the child to destroy him. The ruler of Judea, appointed by Rome, stands as a latter-day Pharaoh, opposing the purposes of God and attempting to extinguish the promised seed. Just as Pharaoh sought to destroy Israel's male children in the book of Exodus, so Herod seeks to destroy the one who represents the true Israel. The parallel is deliberate. Matthew is not drawing accidental lines. He is declaring that Israel's history is reaching its climactic fulfillment in this child. "Out of Egypt I called my son." Matthew cites Book of Hosea 11:1. Open quote, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Close quote. In Hosea's original context, the son is Israel. The prophet looks back to the Exodus, when God called his covenant son out of Egyptian bondage. Yet Matthew sees in that historical deliverance a greater meaning, not a cancellation of Hosea's context, but its consummation. Jesus does not merely represent Israel, he recapitulates Israel. Israel was called God's son, Exodus 4, verse 22. Israel went down into Egypt. Israel was brought out. Israel passed through the waters. Israel was tested in the wilderness. Matthew's gospel unfolds these same movements in the life of Christ. The flight into Egypt is the opening act of this reenactment. The child who escapes Herod is the true son who will embody covenant faithfulness where the nation faltered. This is fulfillment not merely in prediction, but in pattern. The history of Israel was always moving toward its embodiment in the Messiah. Herod and the passing of an age. The text notes that the family remained in Egypt until the death of Herod. That detail is not incidental. Herod's death marks the passing of a tyrant and anticipates the broader passing of the old covenant order that he represented. Herod was king over a temple-centered nation under Roman oversight. He rebuilt the Jerusalem temple in splendor, yet his reign was marked by paranoia, bloodshed, and political compromise. He stands as a symbol of a system nearing its end, powerful in appearance, but internally corrupt and hostile to the purposes of God. The child preserved in Egypt would grow to pronounce judgment upon that very order. The Gospel of Matthew will eventually record Jesus declaring the temple's desolation and the close of that covenantal age, Matthew 23:24. Thus, even here in chapter 2, the seeds of that coming transition are planted. The son survives, the tyrant dies, the purposes of God advance. The faithfulness of God to his redemptive design. Matthew emphasizes that these events occurred that it might be fulfilled. History is not random movement, it is covenantal progression. The same Lord who called Israel out of Egypt now calls his son. What began in shadow reaches substance. What was corporate becomes personal. What was provisional finds permanence. In this brief passage, the Messiah enters exile. The tyrant rages. The prophet's words find deeper resonance. The son retraces the steps of the nation. The story of Israel converges on Jesus of Nazareth. The Exodus was not an isolated act in ancient history. It was a pattern pointing forward. The preservation of this child ensures that the covenant promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would not fail. Thus, Matthew 2:13-15 is more than a narrative of escape. It is the announcement that the true Son has come, that the old story is being gathered up into one faithful life, and that God's redemptive purposes are moving steadily toward their appointed fulfillment.